Welcome along to Trader Chat with Johnny Ward and Flynn Goward. And it was a weekend in which any flickering hopes of anyone other than Man City winning the league evaporated. There was also decent action on the racing front, and the 49ers, the Chiefs and the Bucks advanced to the playoffs, while in the NFL, while we had golf as well. So we've plenty to get through, Flynn. How are you? You weren't racing the weekend.
I wasn't personally. The boys, Ed and Lofty, were though. They were both at the track at Kempton. Next time I'm on course will be in a couple of weeks' time, and that will be for Cheltenham Trials Day. And then after that, the next time I'm on track is
Cheltenham,
the Cheltenham
itself.
Festival. Yeah, exactly. So surely now we're in January, we get to Cheltenham Trials Day, we can have the people stop saying, "Oh, it's not all about Cheltenham. Let's not always talk about Cheltenham." I mean, come on. Sure, we're 2 months away, and Cheltenham Trials Day is in 2 weeks. So surely we're allowed to talk about it now without being gesticulated against Johnny.
It's basically all about Cheltenham, but it was all about Kempton, in fairness, on Saturday, or certainly that was the main card. We had the Grade 2 Chase, obviously named in honour of Silvianaco Conti, which was won by Mr. Fisher. Edged Eldorado Allen in terms of favouritism in the race, edged him as well in what was actually a very good race for the small field, one of many small fields in Britain over the last week or so. How did it go for the firm?
Oh, a little bit of a dig at the British small fields there, Johnny.
Slightly worried. Sly. Yeah, I'm worried, especially with the flat horses actually at the moment. And then you see, like, was it the bumper run, I think, at the bumper run at Wetherby was run for like $2.5 grand or something on a Saturday, which is quite grim in itself. But the field sizes on the all-weather are worrying me a bit at the minute.
Well, yeah, I think field sizes in general worry, and we do just have too much racing, don't we? And I think that some type of rescheduling and replanning of racing needs to happen, but that's a kind of bigger picture piece. I'm actually going to Kempton on Wednesday, and I had a look at field sizes this morning, and I'm not actually disappointed at all. I'm pretty happy with the field sizes. So nice to see the nice local tracks around Brighton still getting the support that they deserve. But just back to Kempton, sorry to go off topic there a little bit. You started with the Silvianaco Conti Chase, so that is where I shall begin also in terms of how we got on. Went the way of Mr. Fisher. All the money in the morning was Eldorado Allen. Opened up around the 11-4 mark overnight. I say opened up, obviously we had anti-post, but when the final bets came in, opened up at around 11-4. All the money was for him all day into 2-1, 15-8. But then that kind of flip-flopped as they got towards the show. Mr. Fisher was then well backed into 15-8. Couldn't Mr. Fisher have a go at the Cheltenham Festival this year? He shortened in for the Ryanair Chase. He's into a price of 16-1. That race is absolutely littered with Irish horses towards the top of the market. Your 7-4 Allaho, then your 10-1 Bar, but a lot of Irish horses in there. 10-1 for St Calvados would be the shortest price British runner in the Ryanair. I thought it was quite impressive from Mr. Fisher, albeit I know that Eldorado Allen's put in some decent performances so far this year, but he's been the bridesmaid a couple of times so far in his runs, and I wasn't thinking it was a top class chase, Johnny. Not sure about
No, and obviously definitely Dysart looks gone at the game as well. Rujovic very well beaten. But to be fair, the two horses who dominated the market kind of dominated the finish as well. You also had a very good renewal of the Curl Lanzarote handicap hurdle over the 2-5s run by the 10-1 Colbert's Dream, which I imagine was a tough enough betting race for the layers, because you did have to pay out on your 4 each way places. No problems with field sizes here.
Yeah, exactly. So we had the 4 places each way, and then we also had the each way extra places. So if you got involved in those markets, 5 places, 6 places, 7 places, you would have been paid out a quarter of the odds at slightly lesser prices. Obviously, you get the extra places. So well done if you did get involved there and took the extra places, and it worked out for you. Cobbler's Dream was a very good result for us on course, and a very good result for us in the office. Very well backed, where Maurice Rocky ran no sort of a race whatsoever. It was a funny shape to the race, because if you had a look at the front of the market, they all had one next to their name, so they're all pretty exposed types. Marie's Rock Green Book was another one, so there were quite a few towards the head of the market. Gelino Bello was the one that was kind of unexposed going into the race, ran a nice enough race into third. He was pretty well bet. So Gelino Bello, Marie's Rock and Green Book were the ones which were really well bet. Green Book was probably the worst result. He was hampered and came down at the second, unfortunately. I'd imagine he'll have another decent run in him at some point. But then Marie's Rock was pulled up, so it was a very, very good result for us. We never want to see horses fall or be pulled up when you want them beat. But in terms of a result, it was a decent one, with Cobbler's Dream going and getting the job done. In terms of a supporting card, I'll just spin through those quickly. Caribbean Boy was one for the punters. Even though he was weak to bet all day, he was the outright loser with us. On course, it was a nothing race. Ed Dart described it as, but for us in the office and online, it was a losing race. He was 3-1 in the morning, drifted all the way out to 9-2, and that's what he SP'd. But he was the unexposed one. He was quite well bet and well tipped up for the Paddy Power Gold Cup. Didn't put in a great performance there. And then he was favourite next time and he fell, I think, at the first or the second. Kevin Blake put him up this day. I think that's maybe why we might have had a decent liability. We do seem to get some of his tips come through. Very shrewd operator, Kevin Blake. And Caribbean Boy was the loser for us in that race. Just a couple more. The warm sources found Falco Blitz. It was actually a decent result for us, Falco Blitz, him winning. We managed to get under that early when we laid it to a couple of warm or seemed to be perceived warm accounts earlier doors, which meant that we managed to get away with that result. Reet Oka was probably the worst result of the day in the 12.55. Very well backed 8-13 favourite Parry 5. Very popular on course and very, very popular in the office. Won as he liked. So that was Kempton for the weekend. I guess we can loosely talk about a bit of Punchestown and some market movers there, Johnny. Who impressed you the most over your side of the pond?
Yeah, well, obviously, we had a decent performance as well to at Warwick. And I keep forgetting the name of this race now, but what was the RSA Chase is, I think, now going to be the target.
Chase.
Indeed, it's going to be the target for 3 under through 5, who again was impressive, jumped very boldly from the front. And at Punchestown, I mean, well, the obvious place to start, I actually don't think was necessarily Bob Olinger, but Dysart Dynamo, who was absolutely brilliant in the novice hurdle, produced an unbelievable performance from the front. Maybe a slight concern that there were some of the distances at Punchestown would make me wonder about the worth of some of the races. There were some horses who made all and won very easily, but at the same time, he was mightily impressive. He was absolutely tanking, turning in when everything else wasn't, and he's obviously a big mover for the Supreme, which now looks like a race of the ages, really.
He certainly is. So you just touched on a couple of horses there. So to start with 3 under through 5, who won the Hampton Novice Chase, I think it was, at Warwick. Only shortened in 2 points into 8-1 from 10s. So that's still dominated by the Irish horses. If we just have a quick look at the National Hunt Chase here, Run Wild Freddish, a favourite. Then you're on to Statler, and then you're on to Vanillier. Vanillier would be the worst result for us so far in the National Hunt Chase. And then you're on to 300 through 5. So I thought it was a good performance from him. He had absolutely no opposition. I thought the race was horrific. But the way he did it was probably the best that he's done it so far. The way that he led, the way he jumped. I know he's jumped round Cheltenham and he's won round Cheltenham, but I wouldn't trust him to jump. And I'm not saying he's going to fall, but I think he'll make mistakes when he's up against top class opposition. So I would be worried about him against Cheltenham, hence why we are around the 8-1 mark and he only shortened 2 points. Then you mentioned Dysart Dynamo, 4-1 from 14 for the Supreme and 4-1 from 7 for the Ballymore. I mean, these are proper races now, don't they?
They do.
These races when we get to Cheltenham. And towards the head of the market, the places are filled with the usual suspects that you would expect with Dysart Dynamo, so Gerhard, Constitution Hill, John Bon, and probably a bit more of a competitive side from the GB side than we're used to in previous years with Constitution Hill and John Bon up there. I thought Dysart Dynamo was short enough now. I'm not saying he wasn't impressive at the weekend, but yeah. I'm not sure exactly what he beat. I guess you could say exactly the same for John Bon, Constitution Hill, although I think they're formed stronger. Especially John Bon. I know Constitution Hill's no short price, but John Bon's beat Nappers Hill, who I think is a decent yardstick. I'm not saying he's going to go anywhere in the Supreme, but he's a decent yardstick, has showed form before. I wouldn't be convinced now about Dysart Dynamo, and I think that everybody tries to fit a warm Irish one coming over, I feel, as well. And so it's almost like there has to be a warm Irish one towards the head of the market in the Supreme. Especially judged in recent years where Willie's just been mopping up in the race. So I do think it fits a certain agenda to be in around that price range. And I think I'd be happily taking on Dysart Dynamo at this stage, Johnny.
Yeah, with the form of the De Bromhead horses, I think you were very brave backing Bob Olinger 1-2, but people did. And after a bit of a scare turning in, he did end up winning very well, and all roads lead Sheldon for him as well.
Yeah, exactly. So Bob Olinger is 10-11 from 5-4 for the Turners Novice Chase, as it's now known. The race keeps changing name every single year, which is quite frustrating. I was usually saying that looks a short price, and there is shorter out there than 10-11, but I'm just looking at the opposition here, and the second and third in aren't going to go because you've got Brave Man's Game in there at 11-2, and then you've got Galopin and Chomp at 6. They're probably going to go for the Festival Novice Chase, or Brave Man's Game might even skip Cheltenham, but Galopin and Chomp's not going to be going over 2.5 miles. So then you're on to Long Press, who's the Venetia Williams horse. So you think might want a bit of softer ground, and we're looking at probably March Spring round. I know it's very early to tell that, but that's 13-2. And then you're on to your Fernie Hollows and Classical Dreams. Classical Dreams not going to go. So then you're on to your 11-1 poke. So when you're saying is when I want to make the case that I actually want to be a layer, which I probably would be at this far out, to be fair, at a shade of odds on, but it probably doesn't look too bad a price when you weigh up the opposition, Johnny.
No, and he's fairly flawless in fairness. He jumps really well, and there were concerns. I think there still are concerns about the form of the Bromhead horses, but he overcame that. And I think the thing about him is the way he finishes his races, as we saw at Cheltenham last year. I thought Guyard de Menil was very disappointing, but I think Capodanno, in fairness, showed that the form is worthwhile, and he did end up pulling away and winning convincingly. And that was Punchestown on the football front. So, I watched the game on Saturday morning. The guy who interviewed De Bruyne afterwards and asked him was it one of his most important goals in his career. I mean, I don't know, was he having a giraffe? I mean, the title is clearly over, and this is confirmation of it.
It certainly was. I will read you some odds just to kind of cement that case. City are now 20 on. They were 12 on before the game, I believe. So, shortened in a fair few points there into 1 to 20. Liverpool 11 to 1, Chelsea 50 to 1, Arsenal 250 to 1, along with Man United and Spurs, and then 1,000 bar. The top four finish, we've had some movements there due to results. Arsenal and Spurs not playing, but they're the ones that have actually shortened due to results around them. Arsenal into 7 to 4 from 15 to 8 for a top four finish. Spurs into 15 to 8 from 2 to 1, despite the game being postponed. West Ham out to 11 to 2. They're the big movers, out to 11 to 2 from 4 to 1 after losing to Leeds. I was speaking to my boss this morning, he's a big West Ham fan. He was talking about, I think it was since Christmas that Leeds have only played 2 games, and also it's 1st of Jan, and West Ham have played 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
So a little moan, but
it looked a bit like that, yes. It was a really good game, but in fairness, Leeds are totally, they're in a false position in the table, and they showed that as well. Yeah,
exactly. So that looks like it's the market that it's all played for. I actually had a bet. I know it's a bit of a sentimental one because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I found we're 100 to 1 Arsenal without Man City just before the City game, before Arsenal Man City. And I was thinking, look, like the second, third, and fourth place teams at the time are all underperforming, and nobody's really better than each other. And I thought that 100 to 1 was just way too big. I mean, we're not far off that now, to be fair, if you have a look at the without markers, they're up there with firms, but I thought that Arsenal were a decent price at around the 100 mark. Just in terms of other markets for the Premier League, we've still got the Player of the Year up, still got top goal scorer. We've actually just brought down, I believe, the Everton market manager and the Everton manager.
All the money for Martinez?
Exactly, yeah. So announced by, I think it was the Athletic, tweeted about Martinez being offered the job and then Thierry Henry being his assistant. So obviously the Belgian ties in there. It would be peculiar for Martinez to lead during a World Cup year, wouldn't it? Because he's obviously stationed, I think, in Belgium, isn't he?
It would. A lot of sentimental stuff there. To be honest, I didn't think Benitez was a bad appointment at all. Maybe I was unlike a lot of people there, but it just hasn't worked out. They obviously had kind of financial restrictions as well. Watched the game against Norwich. I'd have a bit of an interest in Adam Ida to see how he's getting on, and they were so poor. And the end was pretty much inevitable then. Norwich still 12's on for the drop. They have a massive game against Watford on Friday.
They do indeed. 12 on for the drop. Burnley 1 to 2. Watford 8 to 15. Newcastle 10 to 11. I think Newcastle will get out of it. I think they'll be okay. Then you're 7 to 1 Everton. You would imagine with a new manager coming in, they'll get a bit of a bounce factor for a few games, and that could be getting even bigger. So yeah, huge game, as you just said, with Watford. Watford have had a couple of crunch games recently. They got a late equaliser against Newcastle the other day, and
they did.
And they'll be thinking that if you look at the squads at the moment, there wouldn't be much between Watford and Newcastle, would there really? I guess the price of our Newcastle is the fact that we've still got 14 days left, 2 weeks left of the January transfer window, and who's actually going to be coming in. But you wouldn't be too scared about who they've signed so far with Chris Wood, and I guess the signing of Chris Wood is trying to poach one of Burnley's players to try and hopefully send them down as well. And then they've obviously brought in Trippier, but that's not going to set the world alight. So be interesting to see what they do within the next 2 weeks, and do keep checking our site for the transfer specials, because we will have those up as well.
Briefly, the AFCON.
Yeah, the African Cup of Nations. Not saying I've been an avid watcher, but just in terms of
it hasn't been great.
Is it not? I saw that a referee got heat stroke the other day, managed to end the game 5 minutes early or something, didn't they?
Yeah, that was one of the most dramatic instances. Goals have been very, very low, especially in the first sort of 10 to 12 games anyway.
Yeah, I mean, typically, I know Lofty is joking about just under 0.5 through the card. And if you have a look at some of the 0-0 prices, unbelievable. Most of the 0-0s are a favourite in the correct score market.
Yeah.
So in terms of market movers, Cameroon are now joint favourites at 5 to 1 from 13-2 after winning 4-1 in the week. And 2019 winners Algeria lost their lost their first game since 2018, I'm told. 1-0 to Equatorial Guinea. They're now 8-1 from 5-1 to lift the trophy. Algeria, you'll have Riyad Mahrez, I would imagine, will be their poster boy.
Indeed.
So that is the latest market moves for the African Cup of Nations. And that is the football for last week. But plenty of football to get stuck into this week. We've still got the 2 good offer going on. So if your team goes 2 goals up, then you'll be paid out as a winner, irrespective of the end result. You'll get that on all the decent class events. Check the terms and conditions for that. But we've got midweek Premier League this week as well. Let's have a quick look at the fixtures this week, shall we, Johnny, for the Prem? Yeah, so the fixtures for the next couple of days, as we just said, you've got Burnley versus Watford. Burnley are in there at 13-10, the draw 23-10, and Watford 2-1. The same day, which is tomorrow, 8 o'clock, you've got Brighton versus Chelsea. That'll be a difficult game for Chelsea, I think.
It will.
3-4. 3-4 away at Brighton. Obviously, the home local team to us here at Star Sports. Chelsea are in a real tough vein of form at the moment, so they'll be fighting their best to come out of that one. Then on the 19th, so in 2 days' time, Leicester versus Tottenham. That'll be a decent game. Both teams odds against there. Brentford, Man United. Again, another tough one for Man United, 4-5. So only a shade of odds on, 100-30 about Brentford. So plenty of games midweek, and then you're onto the weekend stuff, where another big game in the relegation fight between Watford and Norwich. So Burnley, Watford, and then Watford, Norwich. So huge week for the Horns. So a lot of Premier League fixtures to get stuck into. We've got racing this weekend. We've got the Peter Marsh from Haydock. Will likely be running the all over the place offer there. So if your horse does complete the course and finishes out of the places, you'll get an each way part of your bet refunded as a free bet. So likely we'll be running that in the Peter Marsh at Haydock at the weekend. And there's I think there's a card from Lingfield as well, which has been shown on ITV this weekend. I believe it's the inaugural. They're calling it like the £100,000 meeting or something like that, Johnny, off the top of my head.
And you have the Clarence House, which is hopefully going to entail a clash of honours, and Shishkin.
Do you think they'll both turn up? How'd you bet?
How would you bet? It'd be very hard to split them, actually. And I'm just hoping they do run. I'd say, if I were to price it, I'd say Shishkin will be favourite, but he won't be that short. He won't be like a strong favourite. It'd be very hard to split them, I would have thought. What do you think?
I think Shishkin will be slight favourite, purely from the fact that I think that it can be run to suit Shishkin, because Shishkin can just sit off him. The only thing is, if Enogamy gets a little bit loose, and obviously the Clarence House being Ascot, it's not the easiest track to kind of make ground up on. So he won't have plenty of time like he would do in another race, but it will be very interesting anyway.
Yeah, I'm slightly surprised at the anti-post market, which has Shishkin sort of 1-2 and Honours Yamin is available 9-4, 5-2, something like that. But we'll see. I think there's still probably a lot of doubt as to whether they'll all turn up. Maximum field of 5. Hopefully they do turn up, or it will be a bit of a cakewalk for the other. NFL. Now, just getting into the kind of the business end of things, the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the Bucks advance to the playoffs, and the career of Roethlisberger ends in defeat, famous quarterback as well. How did the NFL go for the firm? I see my beloved Jets end the season a terrible 3-14.
Yeah, so just in terms of the Super Bowl outright, Green Bay Packers are 7-2, Kansas City Chiefs 4-1, Buffalo Bills are 9-2, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 11-2, 8-1 the Titans, 10-1 the Rams, 10-1 the 49ers, and then you're 12-1 by that's the Bengals. Just while you talk about the weekend's action, Johnny, I will actually get you our liabilities on the Super Bowl, so I can bring you inside the trading room and tell you what we're actually looking like as we get towards the Super Bowl coming up. Let's have a very quick look to see if I can dig these out.
I presume, maybe I'm presuming here, but I presume the Chiefs are favourites.
The Packers are favourites at 7-2, right, and then Chiefs are in there at 4-1. In terms of losers for us, so the Bucks would be the worst result. The Bucks are now 11-2. We've laid plenty of money at 6s, 13-2, and then 5s. So they've actually drifted out since we last laid them, which is always good to see. Green Bay Packers, who are the favourites at the moment at 7-2. We've laid as big as 14s. Somebody's sitting on a decent sum each way at 14 here. We've laid them at 7, 4s, and then all the way down to 7-2. So we're still seeing money at the current price. We've got 2 more losers in the book. The Cleveland Browns would be a loser, but they have been eliminated, which means that we've taken one of the losers out of play. And then the Patriots are another loser for us, and I can't see them in there either. So I think that we've managed to get away with 2 of them, which means that we'll just be waiting on Although we're still showing them there at 22, I'm not sure what it is. But Green Bay Packers and the Buccaneers would be losers for us. To be fair, the field are decent winners there, so we've got plenty running for us. The Chiefs are normally pretty well bet, but the Chiefs would be decent winners so far for us, Johnny, to be fair. So that's the book as it looks. We've also got the AFC conference winner and the NFC conference winner priced up on site, so do have a look at that. We do have plenty of offers on the American sports as well, which is the time and a half offer, so do check that out on the website as we get to the culmination of the Super Bowl this year.
And finally, Matsuyama wins in Hawaii, the golf over the weekend. And I know that Seamus Power, Ireland's Seamus Power as well, is into the top 50 after a good performance himself. How did they bet this?
He goes well recently, Seamus Power, to be fair. He's really improving, and he's coming high up in these tour events. It was a fantastic finish last night. It was very, very late. Henley went into the final round around the even money mark, maybe a shade of odds on, and Matsuyama was around 9-4, and then they were about 12 bar, I think. Russell Henley at the turn was 5 shots clear. So as they finished the ninth hole, was 5 shots clear. Matsuyama managed to eke that one back. He managed to birdie the last, which meant that Russell Henley needed to hold a 10-footer on the last to win the tournament. He missed that, just left a little bit pace off the putt. If he hit it a little bit harder, it would have gone in. And then in turn, they went to a playoff, and it was a par 5 sudden death. And Matsuyama from 277 yards hit the ball to 3 feet with his 3 woods. So that was all she wrote, because Henley was in the bunker and he needed to hold out from a long distance. So fantastic performance from Matsuyama. In terms of the book, it was a very bad result for us. We laid a decent sum at 9-4 just before the last round on Matsuyama, so it was a poor result for us. Matsuyama's shortened into 25-1 from 33s for the Masters as well, so he's been clipped in for that. In terms of this week, got a fantastic tournament this week. You've got the American Express over in the US, and then on the European Tour, you've got the Abu Dhabi Hsbc Championship.
Indeed.
Plenty of good runners for this, Johnny. Collin Morikawa was in there at 6-1, 13-2 Rory McIlroy, 9-1 Viktor Hovland, 20-1 Shane Lowry, 20-1 Tommy Fleetwood. I think that's a fair price this week, and then 22 Bar. We're paying 8 places of 5th. I believe that is the best in town. So we are playing the best place terms for the Abu Dhabi Championship for this week. And good to see the good names coming out. I know they're obviously going over to this, I would imagine, for money purposes, but that is the world of golf these days. But we should have a very good tournament on hand this week. And it's good to see Collin Morikawa at the head of the market, because I don't think he's a very respected player in terms of the market, but he is at the head of the market this week, which is good to see.
Yeah, and Shane Lowry, who's been mentioned in somewhat unglowing terms in relation to his support for golf in Saudi Arabia, he's in the 20s. And as Flynn said, if you are having a bet, maybe you fancy Rory McIlroy to go better than he usually does when it comes to the business end. 8 places of 5th there. So if you do fancy a golfer who's gone into the tournament in good shape, you're very, very solid each way terms. I think that's our lot, Flynn.
It is. Just quickly, I do have a tennis offer for you. So we do have the settled early offer, which has been published in the tennis. So back player to win his match, and if he goes 2 sets ahead, we'll settle your bet as a winner. So you don't have to wait on squeaky bum time if he goes to a final 5th if they go 2-0 up.
And maybe even Novak will have a wager on it.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me started on old Novak Djokovic and that saga. That seems to have been running on far too long. We do have daily specials in terms of tennis as well. So check that out. Our tennis trader kit is all over that. And we are trading the outrights in play as well for the Australian Open.
Yeah, and keep an eye on the site this week for your special offers in the race. And what a weekend of racing we have in store. And Cheltenham is just looking better and better as the weeks get closer. And some of the unbelievable novice clashes that we're going to have really, really salivating at this stage. That was Trader Chat with Johnny Ward and Flynn Goward.